the foundations be destroyed, what shall the righteous do? Now here's the third spiritual flaw. First of all, Satan wanted Eve to think negatively about God, to doubt the goodness of God. Secondly, he wanted Eve to think skeptically about God and to doubt the truthfulness of God. Thirdly, third spiritual flaw was to defy God's righteousness and to think carelessly about God. To think carelessly about God. Look in verse 4 again. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. That is, Eve, you don't have to worry about judgment. I mean, you can be cavalier about this thing. You don't need to fear God. God is not all that righteous. Now, don't worry about God's laws. Well, friend, God is righteous. God is holy. Not only is God good, but God is righteous. God will punish sin. God had forbidden them to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God said, in the day that you eat thereof, you will die. That was God's holy law. And law without penalty is only advice. And God wasn't giving advice. You see, it's the devil's gospel. The devil's gospel that God will not punish sin. But God sent me here to tell you that God is a holy God, God is a righteous God, and God will punish sin. And whatever happened to hell, if you disobey God and refuse the gospel of Jesus Christ, you're going to die and go to hell. You're going to die and go to hell. There is a hell. You say, well, Pastor, today people don't believe in hell anymore. Well, that doesn't change it at all. Jesus Christ had more to say about hell than any preacher in the Word of God. Jesus Christ, the loving Jesus, had more to say about hell than any other preacher in the Word of God. Abraham Lincoln, who was wise in homey ways, said to a little boy one time, said, son, I want to ask you a question. If a dog has 4 legs and you call his tail a leg, then how many legs would he have? The little boy said he'd have 5, and Abe said, no, he'll only have 4. No matter what you call his tail, it's still a tail. You call his tail a leg if you want to, but he only has 4 legs. And no matter what people say about hell, they do not take away God's truth concerning the punishment of sin. Now, Satan knows that man fears death. Satan knows that. So he says to Eve, you will not surely die. And by the way, I said, this is not new or old. It's up to date. It's all New Age religion. Everything that I have given you, everything, is all New Age religion. How do the New Agers deal with this idea, you will not surely die? Well, it's reincarnation. What is reincarnation? Well, you just keep going around and around. You get recycled. You get as many chances at perfection as you need. And in reincarnation, there's no judgment. There's no personal God. You know who the high priestess of this New Age religion is? Her name is Shirley MacLaine. An actress of sorts. She said, listen to this, and I quote her, we can eliminate all fear of death. And she said she had discovered that once she was a princess in Atlantis, and then she was an Inca in Peru, and then one time she was a child raised by elephants. That's in her past lives that she's had. And Shirley MacLaine said, it's like show business. You keep doing it until you get it right. And so there are a lot of kids today who, while they cannot be taught biblical truth, this Eastern mysticism and New Ageism has come in like gangbusters into the church, and they believe that. And the idea is that we have something called karma, K-A-R-M-A. And if your karma is good, next time you go through, you keep on going up and you get higher and higher and higher. But if your karma is bad, you're degraded in the next life. So you just keep going through, and that's the reason many of them are vegetarians. Because they believe that animals and humans are all interrelated. And so when you go to McDonald's, you might be eating your grandmother. And so they believe this. That cow has been reincarnated from something else and reincarnated. And so this is what they believe. Satan does not want people to believe that there is a death and a holy and a righteous God and a judgment to face. And so you come up with these silly ideas like reincarnation. People don't like the idea of judgment, and they're glad to listen to this third spiritual flaw, that you can deny the righteousness of God and think carelessly about God. Do you know one of the worst things people say about preachers today? He's a hellfire preacher, hellfire and damnation preacher. Like you don't want to go there to hear him. I want to say again, you would not have wanted to hear Jesus. I have an idea, I have a suspicion, it's almost a conviction. If the Supreme Court of the United States of America could vote on it, they would outlaw hell as cruel and unusual punishment. They would say, well, that's certainly an un-American thing. You cannot have eternal punishment. You see, this is a lie out of hell. The devil wants you to think negatively about God. The devil wants you to think skeptically about God. The devil wants you to think casually and lightly about God. Fourth spiritual flaw.